Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Church Scary Answer Man. I'm Joe Puckett. We're talking about 5 outrageous church thefts or thefts from churches. And wait till we get to number 1 is over $2 million. Unbelievable. We got to start with the first one here. You know, and many of us are familiar with Lakewood Church, Houston, Texas. Terrible shooting there just recently as well. But March of 2014, if you remember, all of a sudden their weekend ties, they came in March, I think it was March 9th or 10th, came in Monday, Tuesday, and figured out that their weekend ties were stolen. And I think a lot of us were just flabbergasted by the amount. $600,000 was their weekend tie. But I mean, they do have 40,000 people plus that attend their services every weekend. So I guess it's not that outrageous of an amount, but they came in, $600,000 was stolen. Here's the interesting part. They never could find it, never could figure it out until December of 2021 when Justin the plumber, and that's all the information I know about him, he removes a toilet for repair, takes the toilet up and out from the wall, and he said his statements literally there was 500 envelopes that just fell out of the wall and just came down out of that hole from the toilet. And he reported the information to the police. He reported the information, of course, to Lakewood there. And also ended up, the only way we found out about it really is that he went to the radio station. I think he was a little bit disappointed. That's what some folks say, that he was disappointed that there was really no response from the church or from the police. And so he ended up calling a radio station and talking to them about it and telling them what happened. Otherwise, there's a good chance we wouldn't know about it because, there was nothing that was ever really said from the church. The next one coming in at number 4 is $1.2 million taken by David Reiter. And this was discovered in 2018. And I should say his wife also kind of got entangled in this because she was receiving some of the stolen property, and the courts ended up saying she should have known about it as well. So there was some things going on there, but he took the brunt of it for sure, as he was the one stealing from the church. He was an administrator there for 17 years. Pastor described him as being a trusted leader of worship, and I guess a member of the worship team. And then I guess at Christmas time, he would lead the worship. And so very trusted member of the church. And yet for 17 years, apparently, he got extra money, more than what the church realized. And he was taking transfers. For those of you in those positions, there were no controls in place. He was just completely trusted. And there was transfers from the church bank account to his personal bank account, lots of them. In the tune of like $900,000 plus. And then, of course, he used the church credit card. He had a church credit card assigned to him. So David was arrested and eventually was sentenced to prison. I believe he may have gotten 10 years, somewhere along those lines. Next up at number 3, $1.3 million. Lara Ford. Can you believe that? That is just mind-boggling to me. I mean, these are some pretty good-sized churches. And, day to day, you can read all the time about $9,000 taken, $29,000 taken by bookkeepers from churches, but we're talking $1.3 million. And this is a very interesting case because it's discovered in April of 2019. It's the Fellowship Church in Grapevine, Texas, that is the victim here. And they're saying that Lara was doing this for 7 to 8 years. Here's the interesting thing, though. This is just mind-boggling, And if you look at why this happens to churches, churches are very trusting. These people are trusted people, and we want to be trusting, of people. And so they're put in these positions. How do these kind of things occur? Is because we don't have controls in place. And I'm not an expert on this. I'm just reporting on this. But it's still mind-boggling to me. Here's a pretty obvious thing. In 2018, okay, this was completely discovered in 2019. In 2018, she was demoted from the finance manager because there was bank account shortages and there was problems with the accounting practices. So she was demoted, but she was still left in a position, crazy. She was still left in a position where she had control over everything. She had control of bank accounts. She had control of all kinds of things that were going on. So, and there was an anonymous tip that came in during this investigation that of somebody that worked under her when she was the finance manager. There was an anonymous tip that came in that she was suspected of fraud since 2012. So even in 2018, she had already been a suspect of fraud for 12 years. And it's basically she's taken cash out of a weekly church offering. The funds are being counted on Sunday, and on Monday she's sifting some out of it, and then redoing the bank deposits. From what I understand, ACH transactions to herself, just transfers. Then they had some sort of method where they could manually take money out of the bank. They could just basically write a check or manually take money out if somebody's check was short or there was some kind of issue. She was doing some of that for herself, and some of the main staff members got a housing allowance. And so she gradually increased that. And there was also some discussion that they could see patterns where when she knew that her boss was going to be looking into that account, she would drop her housing allowance back to more normal where it was supposed to be. So very interesting. At number 3, $1.3 million, though. Can you believe that? Just unbelievable to me that somebody can get that much money, be that trusted. And in her case, in Lara's case, she was already suspect for 7 years at the time that she was arrested. So this is just craziness to me that she's continued to be able to be in that position. So just too much trust. And we should all be understanding, that's my opinion. We should all be understanding when those kind of things are in place and have those discussions, frankly, that those are there just to protect the church. And honestly, those are just good accounting practices and smart accounting practices to protect everybody involved. Next, coming in at number 2, this is not a money theft from a church, but this is just a $2 million tabernacle in May of 2022 in Brooklyn at the Park Slopes St. Augustine Catholic Church. This is an 18 karat gold, highly decorative lockbox designed to store consecrated hosts for communion. And I'm not part of the Catholic faith, so I don't understand all of that, what it represents. But from what I understand, it housed, was very, very important materials. So this was taken from the church, and these people were not careful about it. They broke, as you can see between the two pictures, they broke parts of the angels and the covering around this container where it was housed. And they also stole the DVR from the church. So they stole there was cameras everywhere, and they stole the recording device for those cameras. So they knew what they were doing. So just as a side note, man, $2 million, I have not seen any articles or anything where this was recovered at this point either. So, and then finally, here's the most outrageous one that I'm reporting on at number 1. And this is Sandy Arreola, and $2.1 million taken from a church, Visalia. First Assembly of God was discovered in 2010. And I believe she was arrested also in 2010. She was served for 12 years as the accounting manager for the church. Fairly large church, from what I understand. They would have 3,500 people in attendance. That's the stuff that I've read. So pretty large church. And she's been involved in stealing from the church for over 7 years at this point. So that's what they can see. So for 5 years, apparently she wasn't. And when she served as the accounting manager, And basically, she would give herself raises. That's how she got this. She would just give herself raises, give herself money. And the other thing is she would take money from the deposits, the offerings as well, which, as I study these things, it's a pretty big deal. It's your weekend crew notes the offering amount and makes a deposit slip out, and then the person who's doing the thefts on Monday or Tuesday when they're doing deposits just writes out a new deposit slip and takes some of the cash for themselves. So that's definitely something an area that we need to look at, and let's be honest about when we're talking about this. $2.1 million. Can you believe that? She was sentenced to 11 years in prison. So at the time of this recording, I'm assuming she's out. And, they didn't have any regular audits. It was total trust at that church, which is what we see as a big mistake. No matter how much you trust that person. And these people all talk about, whether it's Lara or it's Sandy here, people talk about how nice they were. Sandy apparently was doing teas for the ladies and just all kinds of stuff that the people really enjoyed, if I remember correctly. No internal controls, no regular audits going on at this church, which allowed Sandy, over only 7 years is what they're reporting, to take $2.1 million. Huge amount of money over 7 years. So, preventing church embezzlement, those of you who are interested in this at this point, annual reviews, having a finance committee, a disclosure of receipts, 2 signatures on checks. You can freeze this here. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it, but I just want to make sure I mention, since we're all about church security, church treasurers should not receive or count the church's income. It should be an independent, separate person. Church should use sealed bank bags for offerings. So the 2 people or 3 people counting the money during that, and this is a big one I want to highlight it, 2 or 3 people counting the money on Saturday or Sunday, then it goes into a sealed bank bag, then it goes to the bank on Monday or Tuesday, whenever you do that. So 2 unrelated people receiving the offering, then church should rotate money counters or the tellers. Offerings of cash should be counted and recorded on bank deposit slips, and then put in those locked bank bags if possible. Copy of the church financial records should be kept at church, and this church should track giving patterns over time so that you're familiar. So, this is just outrageous. Millions of dollars taken from the churches. In fact, I heard a little statistic during my research that said, one expert said that for every $100 that's given to a church, $6 is taken in fraud. So by church workers, church secretaries, treasurers, those kind of people. $6, that's worldwide. Out of $100 that's given, $6 is stolen. So thanks for joining me for this. I hope you got some, not only some entertainment, but some education out of this, and maybe helping you to be better. Even though it's not one of our main focuses in church security, it is still important for us, especially as small churches. We want to be paying attention to this stuff. Take a look at this next video. I hope you'll like and subscribe as well. Subscribing here is important for us to connect, as well as, if you like, it helps us spread the word just a bit more. And then again, take a look at this video.